A lot has occurred. Just like this pause that I had to do today is the next day, not even 24 hours later, that I'm finishing what my point is. Because you'll come to understand life is about reflection, understanding where you were compared to where you're headed. Like I threw the disclaimer out in the beginning. This message is not going to resonate for everybody. But for the intended heart, intended mind, I hope it meets, it reaches you. I hope that you allow yourself to be vulnerable just to take in what I'm trying to convey. Why? It's very, very simple. If you don't, what is going to happen? Your life is going to blur. And you're going to have so much that's going to be shown to you, force fed to you, to the point that you're not going to be able to actually process it. And it's going to force you indirectly to go through what we call being numb, being socially disconnected, emotionally misguided. And what ends up happening, like a lot of people, decisions are going to be made through impulse or reaction. What I mean by reaction, I mean fear. I used to use the acronym all the time in my videos. Fear. Finally, everything's a reality. And the question that should be asked is this: do you like what you're representing from your reality? Or do you like what your reality is showing you? If it does not align, there's work that has to be done. Now, we're in 2023. And unfortunately, the watchers, those who understand, those who obey the Most High. And as I threw the disclaimer out, those who have a belief system may acknowledge the Most High under another name. And I say that very loosely because, for one, your religious text, your religious dogma, that was an interpretation that was offered by man. So, with that being said, can we truthfully say, because of course we want to acknowledge Moses when he was revealed to the Most High and he had the veil over his face and he still had to look away, but it was the Most High's action by the burning bush that he was real. Now, the point I'm trying to make is this: everything that has validity to your life, it is not validated by sight. It is understood by feeling, your spirit. And I know there may be some in 2023, you have not gotten to a place of safety emotionally to even allow your critical thinking to weigh what I'm talking about. But I can break it down to this. Think about your breath, the oxygen. You know that it has importance to life, but yet you can't see it, but yet you rely on it. No different than your heart. You can feel the beat under your breastplate, but you can't see it. But you hope and pray that it does what it needs to do. Because if you don't, or it does not, your reality ceases to exist. And I'm going to throw this disclaimer because you're going to hear what you hear in the background is the rain, because we've got a big storm coming to the islands starting tonight, and it's going to roll through here for the next week. And it's just what it is. Now, not to lose train of thought. For those people that are at the crossroads of your life, just look back over your shoulder. Acknowledge the things that don't work, that did not work. Now, with that, also acknowledge the decisions that were made, choices that you took, versus the outcome of said decisions. Now, for some that had to experience said decisions in an unflattering way, I ask you this: was it worth it? Now, I'm not saying from the position of what we would call the survivor. I'm saying from the decision that was made. Now let me ask this. Let me throw a caveat on this. When you look back and the decisions that you decided to make, were they made out of impulse? Were they made from fear? Or was it because you truly did not know what to do? Cut that light on for me. Thank you. I'm going to tell you, here's why I'm saying this. Because some of you are at a crossroads right now in your life. And depending on if you make a choice to truly become authentic with the person in the mirror, not the representative that goes outside your door, the person in the mirror. Because see, the person in the mirror is the real you. The person in the mirror knows what you need. The representative that goes outside your door knows what you want. And that's why so many people will tend to turn it off and use their insecurity to broker or project the outcome of what they need all along. But usually, it is not what you need. It is far from it. And if you could turn around and do a 360, send it right back, you would redo it, wouldn't you? I know. Who am I talking to? Who am I talking to? See, this message is for you. See, at the end of the day, what's at stake is your life. Your life story. And depending on those who are ready to take their life serious and invest in it, it will become your testimony. And for those who are investing from that standpoint, guess what's going to happen? You're going to reveal your discernment, and you're going to see how strong you really are. A lot of times, folks, First of all, I've always said this. Did you know that every person at the sound of my voice, you were given a natural talent and gift before the moment you took your first breath? Did you know that? Now, why am I saying this to you? I'm saying this to you because if I had someone in my early years pull me to the side, pose the question, I know that my life would have been totally different. Even though now, I have a very, very great life. But I can tell you unequivocally, if I knew what I knew now when I was in my early 20s, 20, 21, 22, I can tell you emphatically, you would be looking at a multimillionaire. Now, don't get it misconstrued in regards to worldly assets, because that means nothing. It only has relevancy here on this 3D, 4D realm. Because the reality is, if and when the time comes and you take your last breath, you can't take it with you. We learned that from the Egyptians. And still to this day, we have folks that are choosing to awaken those that should be in spiritual rest. You reap what you sow. Now, if you take anything from what I'm saying to you is this. Just like your elders, there is and there will always be someone to some point that has already walked the journey that you've walked. They've already seen what you are seeing now. Only thing's different is the technology of that reality. But problems are still problems. Agendas are still agendas. And truth is still truth. Who am I talking to? I learned when I embraced my spiritual walk by way of a traumatic heartbreak. Traumatic. Instead of doing the tried and true where you hear people say, well, to get over someone, you got to get under someone, I turned to my faith. Because, not to be vindictive, I just did not want to make repeat the same mistake I did. And as long as it took for me in that walk to understand, to not lean on my understanding, to lean upon the Most High, I was willing to commit to. Right? Now, mind you, you're looking at somebody that has served their country, and with that, seeing things that you will never see, been globally around the world, and to the point that if I had the ability to have what I would say a magical hat to put on, and I could give it to someone so you could see my journey, you would truly be at awe. But even with those opportunities, even through those experiences, through it all, one thing I can unequivocally say, the Most High was there. His angels We're there. Angels are real, family. Don't let social media convince you that they do not exist. Demons are also real. And yes, Satan, Lucifer, he goes by many other names, is real. Now, from a logical standpoint, I want you just to take this in. Because I learned this through my walk. If your life was not dead, it was not destined for greatness, why do you think you've gone through what you've seen and experienced what you've experienced? I'll tell you why. It's plain and simple. See, Satan is like, as you heard in scripture, is a lion in the brush, awaiting to kill, steal, and rob, or kill, will, and destroy. So with that, we can unequivocally say that from an earthly standpoint, because some believe he has principality on earth, he knows everything before it exists. Why? Because he was the number one angel to the Most High. So with that being said, if that capability was available to him, why would he allow you to grow into who you're destined to be? Who am I talking to? Some of you may have been stricken with illness and ailment. Some of you had to go through abandonment. Some of you had to deal with various forms of abuse, hoping that you would give up. Who am I talking to? Hoping that you would turn your back on yourself. See, the one thing I can tell you about the Most High, he is the unconditional example of peace, love, compassion, temperance, greatness, and direction. And guess what? Until you decide to make that investment in yourself, you cannot embrace who you really are. I used to say that in my videos all the time. Do you know who you are? Because if you knew who you are, you would also understand this. You're going to be attacked. You're going to be tested. You're going to be literally at the doorway of breaking down. Whatever tool that may be needed to make you disown yourself. Now, on the flip side, I will say this. Because the devil is a liar. But the one thing that I've also learned is the devil will always give you what you want, but will always fall short compared to what you need. On the other note, and I'm going to pick my words, because I want to reach the intended heart, intended mind at the level that you're on. But I'll be remiss not to use this example. Think about all the women, the beautiful, beautiful Women are like wildflowers. Everyone is beautiful in its own right, but every fragrance is different. But it's only respected and embraced for the select one. That's why flowers die. It's intended to be plucked, coveted by the select one. Why? Because they know the value of the beauty that is being shown and what is required to cultivate it, to sustain it. Because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you're 74 or 24. Eventually, everything, when it comes to this life spectrum, will come full circle. You came in this world as a baby, and when you leave this world, you're going to be thinking like one. Your abilities will diminish. Only thing that's going to navigate you through it is the wisdom of the experiences you've embraced. Who am I talking to? Now, with that being said, there's been an agenda to convince women. Now, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, because you had a lot of people pissed off about the term king and queen. You know where that came from? You're looking at them. There's been a lot of coin phrases that I've put out on social medias through my videos. I never get credit for it. But just like you're hearing this comes from spirit. I don't write nothing down because it comes from the Most High. And I know that pisses people off because they don't understand how. Because I place the Most High first in everything I do. And in return, because I've shown my worthiness, my discernment is strong. My conviction is strong. My passion is strong. My temperance is strong. And I will not be moved. Because it's part of my journey. It's part of my story. And in intended time in mind, I will reveal everything. Because if you knew that these eyes had seen what this body has endured, you'll be like, it's nothing but less than a miracle that I exist. It's because ultimately you have a purpose. Did you hear me? You didn't, no matter what was told, how you came to be, guess what? There's a reason why you're here. Now, granted, we don't get to pick our parents. And I say this with all humility. You could have had the worst family illustrated for your life. They did not support you. They didn't. Pretty much you had to raise yourself. Guess what? You know why you exist? Because you are the living example of what they lack. That was God's way of saying, no matter what she did or what he failed to do, I'm still going to bless you with this seed called a child. And they were the vessel to bring you to this world. Now, deep down inside, there are some that know this, and their behavior that is projected is downright evil. Why? Because they are more loyal to their pride than their direction. That is why, if you look back in your life and those times that were very, very challenging, and you only wanted solace, you only wanted to make sense of it all by seeking wisdom, and they could not. It's because that is something they have yet to master. And they knew if they attempted based off of behavior shown, that would make them a hypocrite now, wouldn't it? Who am I talking to? Lastly, Queen. I say Queen because I will never get the chance to meet you face to face. But my love and compassion is sent to you. But at the end of the day, just like the king, you have a decision to make. You have a choice that you have to make. What's at stake is your life. And unfortunately, millennials, look, 2023, why is it in 2023, 2022, 2021, you're getting cut down, you're getting snuffed out, you're not even able to reach life of your prominence. Why? Because there's an agenda to convince you not to see your worth. There are some people in this society that they know, because millennials are the light bearers. They're the intelligent ones. They have a way to change humanity tenfold. But it will not, they're the key. But until they realize the value of their existence by way of what's found inside them, they're a threat. But here's the sad thing about it. You will never hear people on social media take accountability. Even though we have millions and millions of influencers out there that want to push the gender war, that want to push the narrative of you are equal. Let me tell you something. For those who want to embrace the mentality that there is equality across the genders, you are being deceived. I know for some of y'all being pissed off, like, who are you to say that? Okay, let me look at it. Let me break it down to you. Number one, women, you are to be protected. You have the responsibility of legacy. So, if you are not in sound mind, the worst thing that you can do is bring a child forth into this realm. Why? Because you have set them up to fail. Why? Because everything that makes them reliant to you, they're going to reverberate that. So if you're not of sound mind, they're not going to be of sound behavior. Why? Because they're looking to you for guidance. They know that. So what do? They know the most sacred bond to ever exist in all ethers, meaning generations, is the nuclear family. Now, for those who feel that, no, you're wrong, Gerald, you're entitled to your opinion. But I say this, how's your life working? If you're not having more peace than drama, if you don't have peace of mind compared to calamity, you got to look at what does not work compared to what is longed for, what is needed. But to do that, as I mentioned earlier, you must be truthful with yourself. You must acknowledge what is taking place compared to what must be corrected. It is like a wound once set in. The more that you look at it, the more the fear won't be to heal it. Which ultimately, what's at stake is freedom. But I have to tell you this. There are so many agendas out there in the world that will take a position of arrogance, pride, and ego. But if you were to ask any of those people to represent that, the individual question of what does happiness look like to you, most of them can't tell you. Most of them will be insulted. Most of them will take a combative stance because what is being asked requires transparency. That is why I said the person that matters most is the person in the mirror looking back. Now, I would be remiss to say this. For some of you that have reached the age of maturity and you're trying to figure out what self-independence looks like, and some that may be entertaining the thought of companionship, relationship, and bonds that are meaningful, I would be remiss to not reveal this to you. You know why there's so many people that use the moniker of influence that have taken a divisional stance to separate what you need compared to what you want? It's because majority of them will not apply that to their own life. So it's easier to project, hoping that it will stick. But all you have to do is look at the track record for whence they came, and you can tell they have yet to do the work. Also, unfortunately, from a capitalistic standpoint, you know why division is being pushed through social media so hard? Because they want you to choose. And as long as you don't choose you, they know two things. Number one, you are vulnerable. You are impressionable. And depending on the mindset that you do embrace, they know that you're going to spend money to support it. That is why the lady that unfortunately walks the night and walks the day wears the same attire as the woman during the day. This is not a slam. This is reality. Why? Because they don't want you to have self-respect. They don't want you to tap into your self-worth. They don't want you to come into your own so you can be the best that you are destined to be. Why? Because the ultimate goal is to destroy the nuclear family. So if I get mommy, if I can get her to focus on the things she does not need and focus on the things she wants, 9 times out of 10, from an economical standpoint, she won't be self-sufficient. She will always be dependent, and she will never have a position of self-strength, self-reliance. Now, there's nothing wrong with being responsible because you're an adult. You don't need a badge for that. Just like if you have a child, you don't get a badge for being a parent. You're responsible. You're supposed to be responsible for that child's development and influence because there was a choice to bring said child into this earthly realm. So just as you breathe, that energy should be applied onto that offspring. Why? Because that offspring is a representation of your legacy, of who you are, what you stand for, why you exist. But unfortunately, you have some people, male and female, that do not have a relationship not only with their spirituality, and there's a difference between being spiritual and religious. See, the word religious, if you break it down, means pattern. I can religiously smoke cigarettes. But the word spiritual means connect. I am connected to the things I do not see because it is navigated by way of my unconditional faith and my discernment. So I've been on here for a minute. I just want you to know this. There is a battle for your attention span. But unfortunately, the people that want it only want it for their betterment and gain and not for you. And that's why when the questions that matter to your life, they can't and they won't entertain it. They're quick to put a wall up. They're quick to be defiant. They're quick to show their insecurity by way of, unfortunately, being less than. But just know this. You're not a martyr. You're not a victim. And don't hold your head up on the title of survivor. Because all those are descriptive words that do not apply when it comes to your life. What is at stake is more than you'll ever know. And until you decide to claim that right position, you know what's going to happen? And it happens to everybody. Unfortunately, people get cut. Their lifeline stops. For others, they end up wasting life. And even for those people, you see it bigger than day. And it's a shame. Those that have been blessed to be called seasoned or elders that still have not gotten it, still do not see their worth, still who have yet to do the work and take accountability to make the change needed for their happiness. You see it through their demeanor because they're the most vile and bitter people that you can ever run into. Why? Because they ran from themselves. They didn't take ownership in what matters most, the person in the mirror. See, there's a difference between being selfish and selfless. See, until you decide to be selfless, you won't know what love is. Therefore, every relationship that comes your way, because we attract what we are, it will represent that until the lesson is learned. So, like I said, that devil, he likes that. I told this story a long time ago. I use this as an analogy. Have you heard the saying, be careful what you wish for? because you just might get it. It plays out all the time. This is real. You're speaking it into existence because words have power. The vibration that it gives off into the ethers, the universe. So let's look at it this way. King, we are visual people, visual beings. And you say to yourself, man, I want to get with her. And I'm just going to reach you at the level that you're at. Now, you might not get the person that you see, but what you will attract will be someone that will fit that criteria. But because it was a visual thought, and you spoke that, you shortchanged yourself, because what you see visually may fit the bill, but may not have any self-value, may not love themselves. Therefore, if they don't love themselves, how can they respect you? How can you be in synchronistic flow or yoked? So, queens, that applies with you. If you turn around and your focal point is about security, but there's no love there, you'll get that and some. But you'll be miserable. Why? Because you wasn't secure with yourself first. We put that energy out. I say that in my videos all the time. Energy out is energy returned. Why? It's synchronistic. That the greatest lie I ever told was opposites attract. That's an illusion. We attract what we are. So if your mindset is about drama and no peace, your friends will illustrate that. Your work environment will be that way. You will continue to see these examples until you make a conscious stance to acknowledge what is being shown, but make a decision to change it. Who am I talking to? You know what one of the greatest travesties in reality is? That you have people that are in relationships and sexually they are frustrated. There are people that they want to use the term, he don't know my love language. Well, he can't understand your love language because you don't know what your love language is. So he's going off of what you project. Men are visual. But I'm not beating you up, queen. I love you. I'm protecting you. I'm going to tell you this too. Queen, as I've always said, stop looking for your mate. Stop. Prepare for them. But if you're going to search for you. Search for what you need inside. And work on that. That is why there's so many women today that are quick and slick with the tongue, but they're hollow and broken in the heart. Why? Because they're afraid. They're vulnerable. They want to be loved. But they've gone through the process over and over and over and over again, and they've gotten a ability of assumption that he gonna be just like him. He gonna do me just like they did. Or worse. He gonna turn around and pay for the sins of those I allowed access to my life. This should have only gotten a hello and keep it moving. Now I want to tell you this. King, I love you. but you're slacking. And when it comes from humanity, for mankind's sake, you're dropping the ball. Why? It's quite simple. If you do not know who you are, you will not know where you're headed. And if you don't know what you're headed, you are going to be vulnerable and easy pickings from those who mean you no harm, mean you no good. Excuse me. Why am I saying that? This applies to both men and women. You know why there's so much drama, pain, and why relationships fail over and over and over again? Why friendships only attract betrayal over and over and over again? Because you didn't apply that to yourself first. Just like legendary poet Maya Angelou once wrote, when a person shows you who they are, believe them. But society always has a counter, and what they do is say, well, you know what? I'll use my strength to offset my weakness. So your weakness may be they can't communicate, but they're a great provider. Or she has no social skills, but she's great in bed. You see where I'm going? And that is applicable on both sides. Why? Because people will weaponize their strengths only to manipulate your tomorrow. But I'm going to tell you both this, and I'm going to wrap this up. Until you decide to place the Most High first, King, I'm going to tell you this. Until you decide to place the Most High first in anything you do, you will not understand your direction. And with that, the worst thing you can do is align yourself with a woman, because you will not be able to guide, protect, or bottom line, be her rock against all, because you ain't figured that out. I don't care. I know people, and I'm going to say this with all humility. You had a lot of pushback in regards to Kevin Samuels. Kevin Samuels was a fellow Piscean like myself. And I'm going to tell you what I know. He's in heaven. And I would like to believe, even though I didn't meet this man, I can tell through discernment what he was trying to convey came from a sincere place. And if you look back, even though it may have been harsh, everything that he tried to convey was fact. No different than what your father, your uncle, your grandfather, whoever that male significant person was that has influence and placement in your life, they would say the same. Why? It is not to persecute you. It is to protect you from you. Why? Because far too many people use their emotion over their logic. They don't critically think. And all that does is make you susceptible, to being violated. So he had to reach you. He had to reach the audience that was most vulnerable. And granted, there was a lot of women that felt offended. But guess what? I would like to believe, and in my heart of hearts, that man loved each and every one of you and wanted nothing more than your protection. And if anything, as I would always say, sidestep the bullshit. And if anything, it actually had to have some type of relevancy because he's been transitioned since May. And they still use this talking point. It's such a disrespect. Such, even though there were some things he said that I'm like, yeah, that was mine, but it was part of his purpose. He's not the only one. That's why you hear people say, don't shoot the messenger, embrace the message. So, King, what I'm trying to say to you is this: society wants you to be sterile. Society does not want you to take the rightful place of man. Society wants you to fall short. Why? Because you're a threat if you are able to come into your rightful place. There are people on this planet that do not want the nuclear family to succeed. That's why there's so many options out there. You ain't got to go this route. You can go this route till that calamity comes. Queen, if society truly loved you, why is there so many people out there that look just like you that only want to disrespect you and not protect you? Why is it that the lady that walks the night looks like the impressionable during the day? Why? I'll tell you the biggest one right there, because there's money there. And as long as you don't see your worth, they're gonna make money hand over fist. And they don't care. They don't care. They're gonna keep putting it out. Because guess what? That's not going on. That's not going on in their household. But your decisions and your insecurities is gonna pay for their generations to come. That's for somebody. That's why they want you to go on ahead, sleep around. They want you to do that. Why? Because they want you sterile too. They can't afford you. They can't afford for you to bring another innocent soul here that may end up being the person, male or female, that will change the world forever. Mm-mm. Do you hear what I'm saying? I love each and every one of you. But until you decide to love yourself, everything that you need will not come. And the only thing will happen will be illusions and distractions in the place of what you needed all along. Some of y'all might be laying next to the person that is actually your distraction. And really what you long for all along can't get access to you because divinely they're spiritually protected and they can't see you. You can't see them. That's why that whole narrative of where are all the good men at? Why you're worrying about people who make a choice by free will to make a decision, good or bad, you're more worried about what they're doing than what matters in the mirror looking back. Don't waste your energy. Don't waste your time. That has no that has no impact. But guess what? The Get Along gang wants you to think, yeah, we got another one. Why do you think they made that campaign of um, the sisterhood? Why do you think he did that? Why do you think they did that? Because about 50% of them want you to not be married. They want you to be miserable. And they want you to be just like them, carrying on the banner of loneliness and bitterness. So you can end up like some of our elders, alone. You know why a lot of them are bitter? Because they had so many opportunities to change their life, take accountability for their choices, and walk without fear into their legacy. But they chose not to. So guess what? Misery loves misery. That shouldn't be your fate. I love each and every one of you. I know I've talked a lot, but this was on my spirit. You deserve better. But that cannot be until you decide to choose you first. Be blessed. Peace.